We're back with more modern, and it's a good one, tribal spirits. But none of that ghetto collected company shit. It's just pure blue-white spirits. We've got a lot of stuff going on in this deck, so we'll break it down one by one. First thing, the deck centers around Geist. And everyone probably already knows what Geist does, but I'll say it anyway. It's a 2/2 hexproof for 3, and when it attacks, you make an angel. The angel attacks with it, and at the end of combat, it disappears. So the deck centers around Geist, but more specifically, it centers around Geist and Steal the Godhead. And these two cards were just made for each other. Steal the Godhead says, if the enchanted creature is white, it gets +1/+1 on lifelink, and if it's blue, it gets +1/+1 and is unblockable. So put it on Geist, it's both white and blue, so it gets +2/+2, has lifelink, and is unblockable, in addition to its hexproof. So each turn, you swing in with 8, they can't target Geist, they can't block Geist. It's a pretty unstoppable combo. The odds of them beating you after that comes out, not very likely. And while most combos like this are hard to pull off, that's where this card comes in. We have here Tallowisp, or Tallowisp, not really sure how to say it, but it says, whenever you cast a spirit or arcane spell, you may search the library for an enchant creature card, put it in your hand, which means we can put Steal the Godhead into our hand whenever we cast a spirit, and since our whole deck is spirits, it's really, really good. So ideally, turn 2 Tallowisp, turn 3 Geist, and then turn 4 drop this on it, and that's usually game. And the deck's pretty new. Most of these cards came out last July, because we have Rattlechains from Shadows over Innistrad, Spell Queller, Mausoleum Wanderer, and Selfless Spirit, all from Eldritch Moon, which came out last July. And surprisingly, this deck hasn't really caught on, even though it's pretty good. And by pretty good, I mean it's pretty good. It definitely wins a lot more than it loses. Plus, it's a lot more aggressive than it looks on the surface because a lot of these cards have a ton of synergy with each other. Like Mausoleum Wanderer says, whenever a spirit comes into play, it gets +1/+1. So pretty good for a card that costs 1, and it has flying, and it also has sacrifice it, counter target instant or sorcery card unless its controller pays X, where X is its power. So really, really good card. And moving on to Selfless Spirit, also a really, really good card. It costs 2, it's a 2/1 flyer, and it says when you sacrifice it, all your creatures gain indestructible. So if your opponent was planning on board wiping Geist, Selfless Spirit protects it. And just when you thought there couldn't be more synergy, Rattlechains, you flash it in for 2, it's a 2/1 flyer, and it says when it enters, target spirit gains hexproof, and it allows you to play your spirits as though they had flash. Such value. And arguably the best card in the deck, Spell Queller, you flash it in, and target spell with converted mana cost 2 or less is countered, removed, and if Spell Queller dies, it comes back. But in a deck like this, a lot of times the card never comes back, because between Selfless Spirit making it indestructible and just the really aggressive nature of this deck, your opponent has to work extremely quickly to combat this deck. And conveniently, when people see blue, they're like, oh, it's a slow deck, I can put my lands into play untapped and it's fine. But no, this deck's extremely aggressive, and the fact that all the creatures have flying almost, all of them except for Geist and Tallowisp, means that late game when the board jams for them, you just keep on attacking. And I almost forgot to mention Drogskol Captain, the good old Drogskol Captain. It gives all your other spirits +1/+1 in hexproof, and when you combo it with Rattlechains, it's really good because you can flash it in, they target one of your spirits, Drogskol Captain comes in, those creatures gain hexproof, and the spells that are targeting those creatures fall off. And the card's good, but it is a bit slow. And turn 3, we have a lot of stuff to play, like we have Geist, we have Spell Queller, we have Drogskol Captain, Steal the Godhead, we could play turn 3 if you wanted to. So out of all those, Drogskol Captain just isn't really that great of a standalone card compared to the other ones here. So 2 feels like the right number, or even 1, you could probably pull off with 1. Now on to the finer details of the deck. Other than Steal the Godhead, we'll be searching for a couple other auras. The first one is Hyena Umbra. For 1 mana, it gives a creature +1/+1, first strike, and if it would be destroyed, remove the aura and the creature doesn't die. So against decks with a lot of creatures, we're swinging in with Geist. Maybe we don't get Steal the Godhead off right away. We can put Hyena Umbra on Geist. The first strike will take care of a lot of creatures, and if that doesn't work, then Totem Armor keeps Geist alive. The last aura to mention is Unstable Mutation. And yes, it is in fact viable despite what it looks like. Basically, for 1 mana, it's kind of like that red card from Amonkhet. The creature gets +3/+3, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you put a -1 counter on it, so it's kind of a downside to that. But the deck's aggressive enough where putting a -1 counter on your creature each turn really doesn't make much difference. So assuming the creature won't be blocked, that's 3 extra damage on the first turn, 2 on the second turn, 1 on the third turn, and 0 on the fourth turn, which most games will not go that long. And obviously, both these auras, you gotta be careful how you use them, because if you just put it on a random creature, the creature could easily die. So you gotta make sure you have things to back it up, like Rattlechains or Drogskol Captain, or you can just take a shortcut and put it on Geist, and you don't have to worry about any of that, because it's like, yeah, it's hexproof. And while we're on the topic of auras, you could also put Steal the Godhead on Drogskol or Spell Queller. They don't have hexproof, and they're definitely much more vulnerable, but it is a bit harder for them to be killed by Fatal Push, and they still get the +2/+2 lifelink and unblockable. So you could just wait till your opponent's tapped out, drop the aura on one of these guys, you swing in for 4, unblockable lifelink, and even if they kill it on the following turn, it's like, you still gain 4 and dealt 4. Also, Also, we have 4 Path to Exiles. Do you remember that card? Back before Fatal Push, Path to Exile was everywhere, and then everyone kind of forgot about it. Well, it's still a good card, and because their deck's so fast, giving them an extra land really isn't that big of a deal. Definitely worth having 4 in the deck. And 2 other random cards to mention here, Disrupting Shoal and Shining Shoal. These ones will take some explaining. You could pay the mana cost, but normally you don't. Disrupting Shoal says you may exile a blue card with converted mana cost X from your hand rather than pay Disrupting Shoal's mana cost, and if your opponent's attempting to cast a spell with that same mana cost, it's countered. So your lands can be tapped out, your opponent thinks they're safe, then all of a sudden you drop a counter spell, and you catch them off guard. The downside is that you're losing 2 cards and they're only losing 1, but there's some situations where you just really want to get rid of their card. So maybe like they're trying to Thought Seize you turn 1, and you have like an extra Mausoleum Wanderer in hand or Unstable Mutation. You can get rid of 2 cards if you really don't want them seeing your hand, like maybe you have this combo in hand and you just don't want them getting rid of the combo. Like there's certain situations like that. Or late game you can just pay the mana. But the coolest thing about this card and why it's really great in this deck is an arcane, which means when you play it and you have Tallowisp, you get to search for an aura. So that's pretty good value. Same thing with Shining Shoal. It also is an arcane, and it's really good against creature aggro decks. So same casting cost thing, where you could remove a white card instead of paying its mana cost. It redirects X damage, where X is the converted mana cost of the card you got rid of. So for example, say you have a spare Geist in hand, and since it's legendary, you don't really need more than 1. So let's say they swing at you with a 3/3 creature, you drop Shining Shoal, you get rid of Geist, that 3 damage that would be dealt to you or a creature you control is thrown back either at them or a creature they control. So it's convenient in the right situation, but again, the downside is you have to get rid of 2 cards if you want to use that special ability. But it's a pretty cool card, pretty unique, and definitely a unique card for Modern at least. On to the lands, we've got 3 Cavern of Souls. Probably the best benefit of being a tribal deck is that counter spells really don't bother you because you drop Cavern of Souls named spirits, and if you play the spirit with Cavern of Souls, it can't be countered. So if you hate it when your creatures get countered, consider playing a tribal deck in Modern. We also have Celestial Colonnade, really good card late game. I think hands down it's the best man land that's been printed. For a cost of 5, it becomes a 4/4 flyer vigilance, and there's entire deck space around it, so you see those blue-white decks floating around, and Celestial Colonnade really is the centerpiece of a lot of those decks. I wouldn't mind having more than 1 in this deck. 2 would be good, 3 would be pushing it because it does come into play tap, and our deck is aggressive, but it definitely wins matches every now and then. But for now I put 1 in, I mean mainly because like the price of it's like $30 for this card. I was like, hell no. But if you have a couple spare, maybe put 2 in the deck, it's pretty good. Some other cool cards. So we have this card here, it's called Eiganjo Castle. So Eiganjo Castle can protect your legendary creatures, and the legendary creature we have in this deck is Geist. So let's say you swing with a 2/2, they have a 2/2 to block, you have Eiganjo Castle, and you prevent that 2 damage being dealt to it. Likewise, you have this card here. It's not really as good as Eiganjo Castle, but it does allow you to untap Geist. So pretty cool cards, and surprisingly, a lot of times your opponent forgets you have them, so it makes for some pretty cool trade-offs that work well in your favor. Also, as expected, we have 4 Flooded Strands, 4 Hallowed Fountains, and 4 Seachrome Coast, and we have 2 islands, 3 plains. Now, on to sideboard. To start things off, we have Kataki. It says all artifacts have, at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice it unless you pay 1. So pretty good against affinity, and the best part about this card, it is the spirit. Plus it's legendary, so our 2 lands will work with it. And honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of this card because your opponent can play around it even if they are affinity, but it's a spirit. How could we pass it up? So we have 2 in the deck, maybe we only need 1, but 2's there. Next, we have 4 Leyline of Sanctities, because at its core, this deck is a combo deck between Geist and Steal the Godhead. And nothing's worse than having the combo in your opening hand, and your opponent comes along and Thought Seizes you. So 4 Leylines, and it also stops a lot of decks like Ad Nauseam, Storm, and it's just a really good card to have right now with the metagame. We also have 3 Rest in Peace cards. It stops a wide variety of decks like Dredge, Living End, Snapcaster decks, Delve decks, and that's why we have 3 of them. It's just a pretty good card, and we have no graveyard interaction whatsoever, so it works for us. Next up, Spirited Labyrinth. Yes, it is a spirit, and it makes it so players can't draw more than 1 card each turn. So your opponent draws during their draw step, they then try and draw more cards with something like Seaman Visions, and it doesn't happen. It also works with things like cycling. Your opponent won't be able to cycle on their turn to draw a card, and if they do it on your turn, they can only do 1 at a time. So really good card. I wouldn't mind having 2 in the sideboard, but there aren't a whole lot of blue decks running around right now. Although Grixis Death Shadow is still kind of a thing, even though it's starting to fade. But you could play it in the main deck if you want. It's pretty cool. Next up, Stony Silence. It stops Tron, Affinity, hurts Ad Nauseam pretty badly, and it's really good against the metagame right now. I would like to have more, but Kataki kind of takes the place of it, even though it'd probably be better to have more Stony Silences and less Kataki, but whatever. We also have 1 Dispel, counters an instant spell, so that's good in a lot of situations. Spirit Mantle, we can search for it, gives the enchanted creature protection from creatures, which means it's unblockable. So it's really good against those creature-heavy decks, and we also have Spirit Link. We can search for this as well, and notice it doesn't say Life Link. It just says whenever the enchanted creature deals damage, you gain that much life. So let's say you're playing Burn, you drop Spirit Link on Eidolon. Eidolon says whenever a player plays a spell, if its converted mana cost is 3 or less, it deals 2 damage to that player. So Spirit Link put on Eidolon, you're gonna gain a lot of life. So really good against burn matchups, or you just throw it on one of your opponent's creatures that's on the ground and make it so they don't want to attack with it because then they'll just gain life back. And in the meantime, your flying creatures will just fly over them. And last but not least, we have Trick Bind. And I really love having this card in the sideboard. It makes for one of the coolest interactions you can have. So it says, counter non-target activated or triggered ability, and then it prevents it from firing again that turn. So with Counter's Company running around, Trick Bind stops that. It stops the abilities of Planeswalkers, activated abilities of artifacts, and so on. But in our deck, it's extra cool because let's say you attack with Geist, it makes an Angel, and at the end of combat, the Angel will be removed, right? Well, guess what? The removal of the Angel token is a triggered ability. So you Trick Bind the triggered ability, and you keep your Angel permanently. Permanently. Oh, that's so cool. So even if Geist dies, you keep the Angel, 4/4 flyer. I mean, that's pretty good. And even if you don't get Trick Bind out with Geist, you can still cast it in response to their fetches, and that is also super satisfying. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention, it has Split Second, so your opponent won't be able to respond to it, so it can't be countered, can't do anything while it's on the stack. And like a lot of cards in this deck, it's just a really, really cool ability to have. And if you play this card in your deck, people, I guarantee you, will look over and make comments about it. It's just that awesome. But enough talk, let's just dive right into the gameplay. Opening hand seems decent, so we'll keep it. Oh boy, it looks like we have Burn. All right, well, I don't think we can let this thing come out because it can ping like almost all of our creatures. So let's use Disrupting Shoal on it, and it's like a 2-for-1, but I think it's worth the 2-for-1. And now that we have no turn 1 play, we'll drop Colonnade, pass the turn. Monastery, and a second one. Okay. We'll drop Tallowisp and pass the turn. Oh boy, opponent bolts. Swings in for 4, we take 4. I suppose we gotta put this untapped and just keep Spell Queller at the ready. Could throw in Spell Queller to block, but let's just hold back, see if they bolt us. Darn, no bolt. Shoot. Hope he's not anticipating this. Well, we'll drop it in anyway. Got a Flooded Strand. We'll drop in Mausoleum Wanderer and pass the turn. Feels so weird not attacking with this deck because this deck's pretty aggressive, but with Burn we gotta play it safe, and I think we don't have a lot of blockers, so I think that's worth getting rid of. So that's taken care of. No attacks from our opponent, and back to our turn. Bit of a tough call here. If we drop Tallowisp, we could get Steal the Godhead, put it on a Spell Queller next turn, and get Lifelink, and that should give us the win. Or we can drop Drogskol Captain, which is a better standalone card. Yeah, I think we should drop the Captain. That way we have Hexproof. And we'll go ahead, swing for 6, keep these 2 untapped just in case. Opponent takes 6, and now we pass the turn. Looks like our opponent's flooding a little bit. Rift Bolt suspended, and no attacks from our opponent. Might as well drop both of these guys. Tallowisp followed by Selfless Spirit, searching for a Steal the Godhead, and we could hit our opponent for 12 this turn, but I think that's a bit overkill, so we'll swing for 9 instead, and then pass the turn. Opponent drops Rift Bolt directed at us, sure, and they concede. Alright, on to game 2. Going into game 2, we're going to put in 1 Rest in Peace, 1 Dispel, 2 Leyline of Sanctities, and 1 Spirit Link. We're putting the Rest in Peace in because it looked like he had the creatures that come back from graveyards, like Hellspark Elemental, plus there's Grim Lavamancer, and we're getting rid of some of the slower cards in our deck, and this card's good, but like it's not super good. And with that, let's go to game 2. I think we can work with this hand, so we'll keep it. Monastery. Shoot, not the card we want to draw. It's a little bit late there, but we'll drop Mausoleum Wanderer and pass the turn. Opponent attempts Lava Spike, sure. Swings for 2, no blocks. And opponent misses the land drop, so we might actually be able to out aggro him because our deck's pretty aggressive. We'll drop in Selfless Spirit, swing for 2, and pass the turn. Opponent drops Searing Blaze, definitely worth countering that. Opponent swings for 2, no blocks. And now we have a Geist. Interesting. We could drop Geist, but with 3 cards in our opponent's hand, Spell Queller might be the safer option. So we'll hold back with Geist, swing in with Selfless Spirit, and pass the turn. Opponent drops Lava Spike, so we'll respond with Spell Queller. Opponent swings in, we'll block, and if they pump, we can always sacrifice Selfless Spirit. And they do pump, so we'll sacrifice Selfless Spirit in response. We go to 8, Spell Queller survives, and what to do? I think we gotta hold off on these 2 guys and hold on to Spell Queller, but we will swing in for 2. Pass turn to our opponent, suspends Rift Bolt, and swings in for 1, it looks like. Yes, so in response, we will drop Spell Queller to block, and unless they have Gut Shot, it looks like they're gonna lose the Monastery, and they do. If we had 1 extra planes, I would love to drop this and prevent the Rift Bolt from hitting us. So we have 2 options. We can hang on to Spell Queller, or we can drop Selfless Spirit. I think Spell Queller is fine. We'll hold back with Spell Queller. Swing in for 4. Yep, Rift Bolt comes out, targeting that guy. So we will respond with our Spell Queller. Ouch, and they follow up with the Lightning Bolt. Sure, that's gonna hurt, because then he's gonna kill this guy, get the Lava Spike back. Oh well. If we drop Selfless Spirit, the same thing would have happened, because in response to the activated ability, he could have Lightning Bolted our creature. So it was kind of unavoidable. Our life's getting pretty low, but I suppose we'll drop Geist and swing in for 2. Opponent's at 8, we're at 5, and they concede. Wow. So we would have dealt 8 next turn, so maybe they really didn't have anything in hand. Oh, yeah, that's what they had in their hand. Bummer. Alright, they could have Rift Bolt suspended, but yeah, it kind of blows. I mean, it's not a bad start for our deck, but like, it wasn't really that much of a competitive burn deck. I mean, they didn't have fetches as far as we could tell. But let's continue, see if we can get some better matchups, more competitive matchups, but their deck almost got there. But hopefully our next 2 matches are a bit more competitive than this. So let's move on, see how we do. Bit of a slow opening hand, but we do have some pretty sweet plays here. So I suppose we keep it. Will we see Inquisition? Yes, of course. What will they take? Probably the path because they most likely have Death Shadow. Interesting, they take Rattlechains. That's a bit odd, but we'll drop Celestial and pass the turn. Seeming Visions and no other plays. Well, not much we can do here. We'll drop the Coast and pass the turn. Oh gosh, another one. Alright, sure. As long as we have the paths though, I think we're okay. Like, they won't be able to get their creatures out. What? They take the Drogskol Captain? They took two things that get hexproof. Do they have a lot of creature removal in hand? They get rid of a Death Shadow from their deck. It looks like they're digging for one. Or maybe they have one in hand right here. Probably gonna see one. Yes, no, maybe so. Nope, but we see this guy, so we will path that. Opponent's at 7. I mean, he's really just asking for it. Like, if he could just get a few creatures out, it'd be pretty easy to finish him off. Now, we have Spell Queller, but he knows we have it. So opponent attempts Snapcaster. We will attempt to Spell Queller it, but I assume he has creature removal to deal with it. But if he has Fatal Push, it won't be able to hit Spell Queller this turn. Drops a Death Shadow. Okay. We'll swing in for 2. And what do we do? I'm almost tempted to use this guy. So actually, you know, let's just path now, see what we're up against. He allows us to get path. Okay, that's a good sign. So we'll drop Hallowed Fountain, tap, pass his turn. Snapcaster. Will he Thought Seize us? Probably not. No, Steaming Visions, okay. Casting Seeming Visions, and after fetching, our opponent uses Fatal Push. Sure. Interesting, and they Thought Seize us. Well, I guess they're taking the Shoal, but their life is really low. Like, they're down to 2, and we pull a land, but it's actually not bad because if we wait till next turn, we can use Celestial Colonnade. So we'll pass the turn. We take 4. They drop Death Shadow, but that's the game. It's land here, activate Colonnade, and swing for 4. That's it. All right, pretty cool. I kind of feel like we misplayed a little bit. Like, their life got really low. And I'm curious to know how long this person's been doing Death Shadow for, because it just felt like, I don't know, like it just felt a little off. Like they're a little bit too aggressive. But who am I to judge? We'll go to sideboarding. So going into game 2, we'll forego our Aura combos and instead put in 4 Ley Lines, Spirit of the Labyrinth, and 3 Rest in Peace cards, and that looks pretty good. And we'll keep 2 of these guys in because if we have one of these stuck in hand, it'd be really cool to redirect 4 damage back at our opponent. So with that, let's go to game 2. No Leyline in hand, and he's probably going to hit us with Thoughtseize or Inquisition, but our hand's pretty good. I mean, Path, Rest in Peace, Mausoleum Wanderer, I think we keep. Hey, what do you know? And opponent takes Rest in Peace, so I assume they have like Tassiger or a Snapcaster. So for our turn, we'll drop Mausoleum Wanderer and pass the turn. Another Thoughtseize, sure. And opponent's life's dropping pretty low, down to 11. I assume Death Shadow is just around the corner. Pull a Rattlechains, sure. And we'll swing in for 1. Pass the turn. Wow, another one. All right, well, they're probably going to take Rattlechains, so I'm going to drop in Rattlechains. We'll see if they try and bolt it. Nope, looks like it's safe. And they take Steal the Godhead. What? They don't want to get rid of this stuff? I mean, that's kind of, you know, kind of stopping their strategy, right? A lot of card drawing. We're kind of stuck on 2 lands, but we'll swing in for 3. And I think unless they can deal with our paths, I don't see how they're going to get around it. Opponent drops Terminate, sure. Passes it back to us. Good, we hit a land, so we'll drop in Drogskol Captain and swing for 3. We're starting to close the noose here. Opponent bolts, sure, we let it happen. And Fatal Pushes. So opponent's doing a pretty good job keeping us at bay, but we'll see who can eke it out first. Drops down Angler. We'll just go ahead and path it now. Stubborn Denial, sure. And we get a Rest in Peace. All right, we'll drop Rest in Peace. In our opponent's turn, we'll path it. Opponent swings in, attempt to path. Path goes through. All right, not what we wanted to pull. So we'll keep that in hand just to fake him out, and we'll pass the turn. Opponent drops in Snapcaster. Thought Scour to draw a card. We take 2 back to us. Hopefully we can hit a creature soon. Well, there we go. Drop this in, tap, pass the turn. Opponent swings for 2, no blocks. Attempts to drop Death Shadow, so we will attempt to Spell Queller in response. And in response, they Terminate. Uh-oh. So they have a 9/9 now. Great. We pull Geist, so we'll drop Geist. This is turning out to be pretty interesting here. How will this turn out? Opponent swings in with both. We do have this, though, so we could block Snapcaster. I don't think there'd be any issues with that. Would there be any consequences to doing this? No, I don't think there's any consequences, because even if he gives a double strike, like, it's not going to happen because you just give this guy double strike instead. So either we lose here or we kill the Snapcaster. So we'll prevent the next 2 damage to be dealt to Geist. We take 9, go to 7. Now let's see what our opponent's got. And they concede. Interesting. I think it was unavoidable. Like, even if he had Snapcaster there to block, it doesn't really matter because the Angel's what's going to kill him. Well, pretty good. I kind of felt like he misplayed a little bit. To pull off Death Shadow, there's like a very, very small window. And I felt like he got his life total too low before he had the Death Shadow to pull out. But with that said, I haven't actually piloted Death Shadow myself, so maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, so far so good. Open hand seems decent, so we'll keep it. Opponent drops Essence Warden, sure. Mausoleum Wanderer, pass turn. Devoted Druid, and we should probably be careful here. Maybe keep the path ready. Drop the Mausoleum Wanderer and swing in for 2. Pass the turn. There's 0 remedies, so we gotta get rid of this guy. Path goes through, but he adds 2 to his mana pool before it happens. So many little creatures. And I think the safest option here, swinging for 2 and just hold on to Spell Queller. No attacks from our opponent and no plays either. Interesting. So let's throw down Rattlechains, I guess. And response, Collected Company. To which we will sack this. So that went well. And another path. I really want to drop this guy, but I think we should hang on to Spell Queller instead. We'll swing in for 3 and pass the turn. This thing, I guess we can Spell Quell that. Man, that Essence Warden's doing some work. Ah, shit. And we've got to path that thing right away. So let's go ahead and do it now. Go ahead, swing in for 5. Could flash in one of these guys, but let's let him take 5 and pass the turn. Llanowar Elves. Again, no attacks from our opponents, so we'll flash down Geist. Will we see Collected Company? Chord of Calling, out of range of this thing, sure. Well, things aren't looking that great. We do have Steal the Godhead, so we'll drop Steal the Godhead on Geist and swing with everything. Opponent's now at 20, but what will they be at afterwards? They will be at 7. Alright, see if they can pull off something. They have infinite mana. Yeah, that will do it. Alright, on to game 2. Going into game 2, we're going to get rid of our Shining Shoals and a Hyena Umbra to put in Dispel, Trick Bind, and Spirit Mantle. So with that, let's go to game 2. Opening hand seems okay, so we'll keep it. Drop Cavern to play Mausoleum Wanderer, and pass the turn. Llanowar Elves. For our turn, we'll drop Plains to play Tallowisp, swing in for 2 in the air, and pass the turn. Elvish Archdruid, sure. Drop Celestial, we'll drop down Mausoleum Wanderer, searching for, I guess, Spirit Mantle. Could have gone with Unstable Mutation, but they're roughly the same here. And might as well path this thing before he gets extra mana, and swing in for 3. Opponent drops down more Elves, more Llanowar Elves, and maybe now they're just an Elf deck. So I suppose we'll drop Spirit Mantle on Tallowisp and swing in for 4. Let's try and race our opponent. Pass the turn. Oh boy, this guy. Vizier swings at us for 3, and we pull Tallowisp, so unless he has Path, I think we got it. Because we'll search for Unstable Mutation, and our opponent concedes. No change to sideboard, on to game 3. Do we keep this? I suppose so. Opponent rolls the 5. Opponent drops land tap, so we do the same. Devoted Druid. Aw, snaps, we got our combo here, but he might have his combo, so we shall race to the combos. And for now, we'll pass the turn. We'll keep Path at the ready. We also have Rattlechains in case it doesn't do anything. Collected Company, shoot. Should we be concerned? Do we let him hit? Oh man, it's kind of risky. Should we just hit this right off the bat, or do we let him? Man, if the creatures come in, the combo could go off before we can respond to it. I think we got a path, but like, it just doesn't feel satisfying to do it. Please no combo, please no combo. Shoot, shoot. Oh boy. Well, how do we worm out of this? Spell Queller might be the safest option. Could drop Geist, but then it just depends on what they play. I think we just keep Spell Queller ready. Let's see what our opponent can do with infinite mana. So far, nothing. Wow. And opponent passes to us. Interesting. Could have Collected Company, but I guess we gotta flash in Rattlechains just to say that we did something this turn. Alright, let's see what we can do. And we have a path. Interesting. So we will attempt to path right now. He already has 1 Devoted Druid in Exile, so we'll go after that one because he's less likely to pull it. Path goes through. We'll swing in for 2. And pass his turn to our opponent. Opponent drops Selfless Spirit. We will respond with Spell Queller. I mean, I really want to play Geist, but we got to play it safe here. And they play Duskwatch Recruiter, sure. So we'll save Geist for the flash. And we could drop both of these this turn and put him down pretty low. He would take 9 going down to 7. Let's take things slow. We'll drop Unstable Mutation on Rattlechains and swing in for 7. Opponent's at 9, pass the turn. Activates Duskwatch Recruiter. He does hit a Devoted Druid, but it might be too little too late. Does he have a land to drop it? No, he does not, and he concedes. Interesting. Well, that was pretty nerve-wracking. I mean, it was, man, those combo decks. Like, you never know when them to go off, especially with Collected Company. It's like, whenever you see mana untapped, you're just like, oh my gosh, like he could be one step away from closing it out, and it's just, you never know. But yeah, we were pretty good about putting consistent pressure on him. And we would have pulled off the combo next turn, so that would have been pretty sweet. We could have flashed this guy in, dropped this guy in, dealt 8. Anyway, so far so good, and let's go on to the next one. 1 land hand, can't keep this. Well then, we could keep it and just hope we get a land on the scry. Because we do have a pretty sweet sequence here. We have 1, 2, 3. So I guess we'll keep it. It's very risky. And we do have a land on top, so I think we're safe. That was pretty lucky. Urz is mine. We'll drop Wanderer and pass the turn. What kind of Tron are they? Eldrazi Tron? We shall find out. Another land, sure. Ah shit, I misclicked. I should have dropped this beforehand. Uh-oh. Swing for 1 instead of 2? Alright, crap, that was a bad mistake. It's pretty hard to record and play at the same time, so like that's my defense. But I feel really bad if we get him down to like 1 life and can't finish him. Anyway, pass the turn. Wow, and he gets all 3 of them. Oh my gosh. He didn't even have to search for anything. He just played, oh my god. And he exiles our land? What? He must have like a second one in hand. Shoot. Well, we'll swing into Karn, and before damage is dealt, we'll flash in Rattlechains, and might as well search for Unstable. But I'm pretty sure he has the second one or something big, because there's no way he'd trade this for a land. Either that or he's like really mana screwed and he's just trying to buy some time, but I highly doubt that. Expedition map, Wormcoil Engine, sure. and we've got to path that thing ASAP, so we'll do it now. Should we be concerned? I don't think so. I think we just drop in Selfless Spirit right now, search for Steal the Godhead, and we'll swing in, dealing 5 to our opponent. I'm pretty nervous though with all these lands out. Chromatic Sphere, maybe he doesn't really have anything to back up. Maybe he thought the Wormcoil Engine was going to be his backup. Ancient Stirrings, grabbing Oblivion Stone. Ouch. Luckily we have Selfless Spirit, so it's not that much of a problem. Hallowed Fountain, untapped. And just to get some extra damage in, we'll drop Unstable Mutation on Tallowisp, although he could sack this. But I don't think he will. I mean, does he? I mean, we'll find out. Yeah, I guess he goes for it. Alright, well, we'll sack this guy and flash in Geist. Hopefully he doesn't have another one in hand, but I doubt he does. Search for Hyena Umbra, and we'll hit him for 5. Let's see if our opponent can pull this off. Ancient Stirrings, grabs another Oblivion Stone. Uh-oh. Sylvan Scrying, drops Oblivion Stone. Dang. How can we get out of this? Shoot. Yeah, no matter what, he's just gonna fire it. Maybe we should have held on to Geist an extra turn, but like, what are the odds he played a sec one right after? Yeah, I mean, we could have held on the Geist, but maybe take an extra turn to hit him, which means he would have got another card draw. I mean, his cards are pretty low, so I don't know. Opponent drops a land for turn. Shining Shoal, not what we wanted to see. Opponent drops another land for turn, and then they're gonna drop this. And then they search. One land away from dropping this guy. How do we get out of this? We'll hold on to Spell Queller. Opponent drops Ulamog, so we respond with Spell Queller so we can get it out before our lands disappear. Expedition Map. Opponent swings for 5, no blocks. We'll drop in Hyena Umbra. If I don't see a way out of this, we'll pass the turn back. Opponent swings for 15, we're forced to block here. And nope, can't get out of this one. We're going to game 2. So going in game 2, we don't have a whole lot to interfere with him. We do have Stony Silence, but only one of them. We have Kataki, but not the best against him. Trickbind works pretty well against him. Spirit of Labyrinth is okay, kind of forcing him to work around it. We'll get rid of 2 Shining Shoals, 1 Disrupting Shoal, 1 Hyena Umbra, and 1 Path to Exile. With that, let's go to game 2. Opening hand seems pretty good, so we'll keep it. We just gotta hope we can like aggro him out before he gets the combo off. Drop in Mausoleum Wanderer, pass the turn. Drops a Mind, then Chromatic Star. We'll drop Tallowisp and attack for 2. Opponent goes to 18. Second land, and Sylvan Scrying. Shit. Facepalm, facepalm. Well then, swing in for 2. All 3 lands out. Drops an Expedition Map. Searches, because apparently having 7 mana isn't enough for him. And then he passes the turn back to us. Interesting. Alright, so we'll drop in Spell Queller. Searching for Unstable Mutation. And it looks like we have enough to dump Steal the Godhead on Spell Queller. And we could drop Unstable Mutation. Which of these guys deserves it? This gives us extra lifelink. This one makes so we can counter instants and sorceries better, but he has so much mana as it is. I guess we'll drop it on Mausoleum Wanderer. And we'll swing in. Opponent takes 9. Let's see if our opponent can board wipe us. Oblivion Stone. Okay. Well then, this is quite painful. Pass the turn. Okay. We'll drop in Rattlechains and then Path Big Boy. Not what we wanted to see, but we'll swing in for 2. Opponent goes to 5. Ancient Stirrings. Grabs Ugin. Oh, okay. That's fantastic. But he didn't need Ugin because he has Ulamog. Fantastic. But he did not foresee our secret weapon. Take that. Now we are unstoppable. But plot twist, it's not Ugin, it's Karn. My gosh, who could have foreseen this? Opponent swings in for 10, and just in case our butthole wasn't wide enough, he drops Ugin. But you know what they say, you can do anything if you believe, and I believe we can win with Tallowisp. Tallowisp, no. They told me all I had to do was believe. No. Well, we learned something there. We learned that we have nothing to defend ourselves against Tron. Well, shit. So let's just pretend like that didn't happen and move on to the next one. Opening hand's not too bad, so we'll keep Eldrazi Temple. No more Tron decks. I'm too traumatized. We'll drop Mausoleum Wanderer and pass the turn. Opponent plays Urza's Mind and passes, so we'll swing in for 1. Keep Rattlechains at the ready and pass the turn. Will we see Thought-Knot Seer? Yeah. Oh boy. Well, we'll drop in Rattlechains before our opponent can do it, but we know they're going to take the path. Pull Flooded Strand, so we'll fetch so we can drop Geist. Could wait to use it as an instant, but we'll drop it now just so we can get Mausoleum +1. And swing in for 4. And Reality Smasher. And let's try and be clever about this. We'll block here, throw down Shining Shoal, so that way 3 damage will be redirected back at him. The joy of math. And we hit a path. Cool. So a bit of a tough call here. We could just path this or save Spell Queller. I actually don't think we really need to path it right now. So let's hold back, swing in. Opponent goes to 6, and we'll pass the turn. Relic of Progenitus, sure. Opponent digs. Ooh, and gets to this land, crap. Mind Stone. Should we just Spell Quell it? No, I don't think so. I think it's not that big of a threat. I mean, drawing a card isn't that big of a deal. Opponent has 3 to 4 mana at their disposal. Opponent drops Thought-Knot Seer. Yep, that's what I was hoping for. We'll respond to Spell Queller. and they concede. Nice, nice. So going into game 2, we're gonna get rid of these guys, put in these guys. It's kind of a hard matchup for us, but let's see how it goes. On to game 2. 1 land hand, so we'll mull. No land hand, so we'll mull. Yeah, I guess we're keeping it. Bottom this. This will be a tough one. Drop Flooded Strand, pass the turn. Okay, no place from our opponent, we'll fetch. Fetch again. And we'll drop Spirit of the Labyrinth in case he wants to draw cards on his turn. So, pass the turn. Thought Not Seer, sure. Probably gonna lose Path. Ooh, and take Spell Queller instead. Interesting. Well, might as well path this guy. Oh shit, wait a minute. That was pretty stupid. Because that means we can't draw a card because it's on our turn. If we did it on his turn, we would have been able to draw a card. Well, shit. Swinging for 3. Totally slipped my mind. It's kind of a weird interaction they don't ever see though. Like, Spirit of the Labyrinth and Thought Not Seer, so there's my defense. Another Thought Not Seer. Might as well just trick bind it. Not that it really does anything. Do you have a Mausoleum Wanderer, but kind of in a bind here. We'll drop Mausoleum Wanderer, pass the turn. Didn't help that we started off with a 5-land hand. Expedition map gets all the lands and drops Reality Smasher. Opponent swings for 5, no blocks. Selfless Spirit, sure, we'll drop that. Swing in for 2 and pass the turn. Walking Ballista, well, shoot. Let's just go to the next game. So going into game 2, I'm going to get rid of the Katakis and put in Spirit Mantle and Drogskol Captain. Hopefully we can just finish them off before it becomes an issue, and we'll see how the third game goes. Opening hand seems somewhat decent, so we'll keep a lot of lands, 2 Geist. I mean, it's very hit or miss. But my thinking is, like, even if he drops Thought Not Seer, we can still save one of the Geist, drop Spirit Mantle on it. So that's the plan. We'll drop Celestial Colonnade and pass the turn. Another land, shoot. Drop Seachrome Coast, pass the turn. No place for our opponent. All right. Drop Flooded Strand, and then drop Geist, and that's our turn. The mana card works out nicely where we can drop this in this next turn, assuming he doesn't drop Thought Not Seer on us, which he might. Dang, 2 of them. Reality Smasher. Swings at us for 5. I guess we'll just try and race him. Okay, so we'll drop Cavern to play Selfless Spirit. Drop Spirit Mantle on Geist to make sure we can keep attacking, and swinging for 7, so it's about a tied race, but it just depends. Like, if he has another Reality Smasher, then we might be in trouble. It will be close. Opponent swings for 5, no blocks. Opponent passes. Ooh, and Stony Silence. Man, this is a bit of a tough call here. We're definitely going to swing him with Geist. That'll deal 7 to him. But the question is, do we swing him with Selfless Spirit? If we swing with Selfless Spirit and him, we'll deal 9 to put him at 4. But there's a chance that he'll drop a Reality Smasher next turn if we don't have creatures, or if we only have Mausoleum Wanderer. We block 1, 9 spells over, we lose. So I think we got to hold back with Selfless Spirit. So we'll just swing in for 7. Oh boy, I'm nervous. And usually when I'm nervous, we lose, so it's not good. But we'll drop Mausoleum Wanderer. Actually, is there any chance he has counter? Probably not, but I'm super paranoid. We'll drop Stony Silence, then drop Mausoleum Wanderer, and pass his turn. We'll see if the opponent can eke it out. Deep breathing. Oh no, what? What? Does he have a second Reality Smasher? No. He hits himself down to 2. Oh boy. Oh boy. No, please, no second Reality Smasher. Like, no. Oh shit. All is dust. Did he really get that much mana already? What happened? Oh crap, I forgot this was Eldrazi. Yeah, dang. Well then, at least we don't die this turn. And if we hit a land next turn, we win. Pray for a land. Please land, 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 land. Yes! Yes, we did it! Oh! So we'll act. Oh, my baby's alive now. Oh. I knew you were worth the $30 I paid for you, even though you're a virtual copy. We did it! Yeah! Wow, that was... that was pretty lucky. But, man, oh man. I did not have faith there in the end. It was just like, oh man, what are the odds of that? So he lost to Green-Black Tron, but then won against Eldrazi Tron. So I guess it kind of works out. Yeah, man, that was pretty sweet. And yeah, I should probably put a second one in the deck. It's pretty good. I had 2 in before. It is a pricey card. But yeah, in like situations like that, it really does save us. But I feel like we should do a couple more matches just to feel the deck out some more. And plus, this deck's like a ton of fun to pilot. And I wouldn't mind changing the sideboard because like Kataki just feels really underpowered. I mean, it is a spirit, and against Affinity, it's really good. But the fact that our opponent has a choice, like they can keep it and pay 1, or they can sack it, it's a little iffy, although it is a spirit. And I just feel like Stony Silence is a better card. Like, it shuts off a lot of decks. It shuts off Tron, shuts off Affinity, and it just does a lot more than Kataki. But for the sake of consistency, I'm not going to change the sideboard, but in the future, though, I will make changes like that, I think. So we'll keep the deck the same, we'll keep the main deck the same as well, and do a couple more matches, see how they go. A lot of lands in the opening hand, but I think we can keep. Opponent drops Delver, so it might be Blue Moon or Blue Moon Delver. And we do have a combo here, so drop the coast and pass turn. Opponent transforms it, we take 3, drops the second one, and it looks like we'll be racing our opponent. So the plan is we'll flash in Rattlechains on our opponent's turn after they attack, just to soak up some damage and draw in any removal or counter that they have. Opponent transforms the second one, Swings in for 6, so let's attempt to drop it. And in response, they bolt it. Sure. And they missed the land drop. So we'll drop this, throw down Geist, and pass turn. Opponent swings for 6 in the air, so we'll attempt to do this thing. We'll target him, exile the Queller, and redirect from him. So we only take 3, one of them dies. They drop another one, but I think it's too late. This thing comes out, and it should be all over. Now we got 4/4 unblockable lifelink. Swing in for 8, and I think that's it. I don't think they can really come back from that. And our opponent finally gets a land, swings in for 4, and drops Seaman Visions. We'll keep the Spell Queller ready and swing in for 8. Opponent goes down to 1, and now we pass the turn. Another one, and they concede. So going into game 2, we'll get rid of 2 Shoals, an Unstable Mutation, Hyena Umbra, and put in 3 Rest in Peace cards and a Dispel. We don't really know if they're Grixis or just blue-red. If they're Grixis, I would put 4 of these in, but since we don't really know, we'll just leave them out for now. And with that, let's go to game 2. Opening hand isn't awful, but it's not really great either. It'd be nice if we had a Cavern, so let's mull it. Kind of the same thing, but let's see what we get on the scry. Steal the Godhead. I guess we keep that on top. Drop Flooded Strand and pass the turn. Thought Scour. And we can really use a Cavern right now. Shoot, I guess we drop Selfless Spirit knowing that he's probably going to counter it, or at the very least remand it. And he doesn't, so that means he probably has Lightning Bolt. Hey, what do you know? Blood Moon? Sure. That does complicate things. So I guess technically he's Blue Moon. So much for Geist. And pass the turn. No plays from our opponent. Alright, pass again. They Snapcaster in, Thought Scour, and then Enigma Drake. Alright, we could path it. Might as well since we have a second one. Could wait till our opponent's turn though. Yeah, let's just wait. Opponent swings for 5. We'll path the Drake. Back to our turn. Still no island. We have 2 islands in deck. The only hope here is to really just drop a creature and then path our own creature to get an island. But nothing yet. So they weren't Grixis Delver after all. It was more Blue Moon with Delver in it. Which, like, Blue Moon doesn't usually have Delver. At least the version I played for a while didn't have Delver. Flooded Strand, but it's a mountain still. I mean, do we path this guy and just give up on getting an island that way? Or, I guess we'll path. I mean, we can't just keep taking damage like that. And they drop Cryptic Serpent. Shit. What kind of deck is this? Man, it's pretty sweet, though. We go on the 5. I don't see us coming out of this. Yep, on to game 3. So going into game 3, I'm going to put back the Disrupting Shoal to stop Blood Moon if we need to. And also Spirit Labyrinth, which should have been in there already. And we'll get rid of Shining Shoal and 1 path to Exile. And with that, let's go to game 3. Opening hand looks pretty decent. We'll keep it. Drop Seachrome Coast. Hope he doesn't have turn 1 Blood Moon, which you need 2 Simians for that, which I don't think he has, but you never know these days. Lightning Bolt. Second Seachrome Coast. So we'll drop that and play Rest in Peace. And then pass the turn. Seaman Visions and Dispel. So we'll fetch for an island and then drop in Geist. Now that Geist is out, he really needs board wipe or I don't see him coming back from that. Will he drop Blood Moon though? He does, sure. And there's still the Godhead. Oh man. Well, that's pretty hard to come back from for our opponent, so we'll swing in for 8. Another Seaman Visions. And our opponent concedes. Well, it was nice seeing the good old Blue Moon deck again. But this combo is pretty sweet. So I guess we'll just keep going till we lose and see how many we can do. Opening hand's not terrible, but the curve isn't so great. 4 lands, I think we gotta mull it. Oh man, this is worse, but do we mull the 5? I think we keep it and just scry. Hope we hit a land on top. Because we do have the combo in hand, so if we draw lands, we're fine. And there's a land, cool. Opponent plays Cliffs, but no Inquisition. Drop Hallowed Fountain and pass the turn. It looks like we have Dredge. This will be quite difficult. I suppose we'll keep our mana open for Rattlechains. But best case scenario, we keep Spell Queller ready for Living End. Unless they fire it off right here. I'll attempt to drop in Rattlechains. Wow, and they fired off already. Whoa. Only 2 things in graveyard. Wow. He must have a second one, maybe? I don't know. Usually they wait till like an extra turn to do it. So we'll drop down Rattlechains, but man, we really have a clock on us now. We pull a Cavern. I think our best shot is to drop this followed by this, but it should be block or just attack. 10 damage is kind of a lot, so I guess we'll use it to block. Opponent swings with both. We'll block here, and then flash in Geist. We take 4. And opponent drops in Simian Spirit Guide. Cool. Play a Cavern and drop in Steal the Godhead. So we'll be dealing 8 to our opponent, which means next turn we have lethal. This is quite interesting indeed. I guess our opponent could beast within this thing, right? Yeah. And opponent sings with everything. We go to 7, and let's see what they got, but we have Spell Queller. So no matter what they do, I think we have lethal either way. Opponent attempts beast within, but we'll Spell Quell that. And opponent concedes. Nice. So I wasn't really sure we were going to win that one, but yeah, the combo saved us once again. So going into game 2, we're going to get rid of our Shining Shoals, a Hyena Umbra, and 2 Drogskol Captains. And instead, we're going to put in 3 Rest in Peace cards and Trick Bind so that when they cascade, we can counter that trigger. And also Spirit Labyrinth to make cycling harder for them. And with that, let's go to game 2. Opening hand's not bad, but no Rest in Peace. I think we keep it anyway, it's not bad. Drop Mausoleum Wanderer and pass a turn. And opponent missed the land drop, interesting. Pull Flooded Strand, we'll drop Mausoleum Wanderer, swing in for 2, and our opponent should have trouble pulling off Living End with 2 Mausoleum Wanderers out. Fetch, we'll get a Plains just in case he's running Bloodmoon. Could drop Tallowisp, but I think Spell Queller at the ready is better. Still only cycling from our opponent, no plays. Get another Mausoleum Wanderer, sure. And we'll swing in for 4. Opponent cycles some more, and again. And as long as we don't see Living End, I don't think he can win. He does play Brindlebore, but I don't think that's too much of a concern, so we'll just not Spell Quell that. Flooded Strand, and we might as well drop Tallowisp, and then swing in for 6. Opponent takes 6, and then pass the turn. Opponent fetches down to 3, no attacks, and passes it back to us. Might as well fetch. And if our opponent wants to do anything funny, they can do it now, because we're 1 land short. See if they want to do it. Nope. Get a Plains, then drop Selfless Spirit, search for Unstable Mutation, and then we'll swing in, and might as well swing in with the Tallowisp as well. But it'll most likely just block and sack, which he does. Goes to 7, which means he'll go down to 1. Sure, pass the turn. Alright, and he fires it, so this will go through, but when the Living End comes in, we're going to try and stop it. And it's kind of a bad time to fire it because now our Mausoleum Wanderers are 2s, so we can just sack it to counter. Yeah, we didn't even need the Spell Queller. Let's see if he has another one. And he concedes. Alright, that was pretty easy. I mean, Living End's kind of based around like not running into control decks. I ran Living End for a few months, like a Jund Living End deck, and as long as they didn't have Graveyard Hate or counters, then the deck was like really, really good. And the win percentage on game 1 before sideboarding was just like through the roof. It was insane. But alright, I guess we're moving on to the next match. Opening hand looks pretty good. We'll keep it. Please no Inquisition. Please no Inquisition. Oh, yes. What is this? Is this Affinity? Alright, drop Seachrome Coast and pass the turn. I don't know if this is Affinity, because like I've never seen an Affinity deck that only played 1 card on turn 1. What? It might be Budget Affinity. And they could just be like brewing it, but there aren't too many brews out for paid matches, so... Alright, let's see how it goes. We'll drop this guy, pass the turn. Lightning bolts that, sure. Alright, and then we'll drop down Geist and pass the turn. I mean, if they want to try and race us, they can, but we got this next turn. Edge Champion. Opponent swings for 4, and then we will drop Steal the Godhead, and that should do it. Swing in for 8. We gotta remember that we have this, because I let some things go, like Cranial Plating and Edge Champion we could have countered. But oh well, I don't think we really needed to. Arcbound Ravager, that we could counter. So we use Disrupting Shoal, getting rid of Rattlechains to get rid of Arcbound Ravager, because that's a pretty dangerous card. So I guess they're just like blue-red Affinity without Mox Opals, I guess. That's kind of what it looks like, but it's a very slow Affinity. And I think what makes Affinity so good is that it's just super fast. So even if you have like sideboard hate for it, it doesn't really matter because it's just so fast. But they, they have the Affinity part, but not the fast part. Well, we'll swing in for 8. We go up to 14 and pass the turn. Opponent attempts to drop Edge Champion, but I think we just go ahead and Spell Quell that. And we'll still have enough left over to untap our guy if we need to. Swings in for 9, but I don't think we really need to worry about anything, so no blocks. Pull a Cavern and we'll drop Drogskol, and that should do it. Yep, swing in, and that's it. Alright, cool. Going into game 2, we'll get rid of the Drogskol Captains, a Hyena Umbra, put in a Stony Silence and the Katakis, and with that, let's go to game 2. 1 land hand, not going to keep this. Kinda bad, but we do have a Kataki, so we will keep. Geist, keep it on top. Yes, yes, play all those artifacts, yeah. The more the better for Kataki. Ooh, that's pretty good. I'm almost tempted just to counter it right off the bat, but no, I think we should hold off. And then we'll drop Kataki and pass the turn. Problem is he's just going to sack the artifacts to this guy before this becomes an issue. So opponent doesn't sack anything, just lets them tap out. Swings in for 1, no blocks. And we'll drop Seachrome Coast, putting out Geist, and swing in for 2. And pass the turn. Drops Memnite and sacks his artifacts to Arcbound and puts all the counters on the land. Interesting. But that means he's going to have to sack this. So we'll swing in with both these guys. Opponent goes down to 10. He's going to lose the Glimmer Void. And then see what he's got. Now this is where things get interesting. He'll swing in for 4. And we fetch for Plains to use Shining Shoal, redirecting 2 damage from this onto him, which means unless he kills one of our creatures, he's within lethal. Alright, let's go for it. See what they got. And even if they do have removal, we have Disrupting Shoal. And yep, that's lethal. Well, not the most competitive matchup we could have seen, but we did get to see Kataki in action, which is kind of cool. But if it were a full-blown Affinity deck with like Mox Opals and everything, and Steel Overseers, we would have had a much harder time dealing with it. So kind of a bummer we didn't see the full version. But most of the cards were there. I mean, this card isn't cheap, I don't think. It's pretty pricey. But the Mox Opals I can understand. I think on Magic Online it's like $50 for a Mox Opal, which is pretty insane for an online version that you can't even hold in your hand. Yeah, just check now. It's $50.25 for one. Dang. But we'll just keep going until we lose. I mean, I feel like we're gonna lose one soon, right? Like sometimes you get that feeling like where this is like the last one that you win. But we'll have to wait and find out. Hand looks good except for the 1 land, so we'll mull. Oh boy, 1 land again. I guess we keep and hope we get a land on the scry. Bottom. Alright, play a land, pass the turn. Arbor Elf? Oh boy. And I guess we pat the Arbor Elf. I mean, it's like, not like we're doing anything else. It's like Mono Green Devotion or... Oh god, we're not hitting any lands. Oh boy. Oh, I don't like this. Thrag Tusk. And even if we path it, he still gets the guy. I guess we path it, but man, they're going to be at 5 lands when we're at 1. Holy crap. Well, I predicted that we were going to lose the next one, and damn, I mean, our luck has to run out sooner or later. You know, it's like everyone loses it after a certain amount of time. I'm not saying I want to lose, but you know, it's inevitable at some point. Eternal Witness and this guy. I mean, it doesn't really matter what he plays now. I mean, anything's better than what we have. So we do hit a Cavern, but the question is, do we keep playing this one out, or do we go into game 2 without him seeing what we are? I mean, there is a slight chance we'll win, but then he'll just like board against enchantments. So I guess we'll go to game 2. It's kind of a lame finish to game 1, but at least that way he doesn't know what we're doing. Going into game 2, we'll get rid of these shoals, put in Spirit Mantle and Spirited Labyrinth, and with that, we'll go to game 2. Opening hand looks good. We'll keep, drop Cavern, and pass the turn. All right, we'll drop Tallowisp and swing for 2. Opponent drops Elvish Mystic and Visionary. Let's see. I suppose we'll be aggressive. We'll search for an aura, getting Unstable Mutation, and then drop it on the Mausoleum Wanderer and swing for 6. A bit risky, but hopefully we're okay. I mean, they're mono green. Drops this thing. So much devotion. I think it's time we get rid of this guy, or at least on our turn we get rid of it. Relic, pull Hallowed Fountain. Didn't want to see that. We'll swing in for 5 in the air, and then pass to our turn, and then our opponent's turn, we'll path this guy to reduce his devotion. And if we do it during his upkeep, it should be fine. So here we go, path that. And another one. All right, shoot, what do we do here? Do we path any of these guys? I mean, I guess we kind of have to path this thing. Could wait again. Let's just do it now, just in case we have to play something next turn. All right, get a Rattlechains. So we'll drop it into search, even though now's not the best time to do it, but whatever. Grab Spirit Mantle and drop it on Tallowisp to swing, and so it's unblocked. And we actually have lethal. Huh, I didn't even realize that. All right, cool. Looks like we're going to game 3. Going into game 3, I guess, do we need Shining Shoal? Maybe Rest in Peace would be better for Eternal Witness. Or even Trick Bind. Actually, Trick Bind might be kind of good. A lot of stuff that triggers. So with that, let's go to game 3. Opening hand could be better, but we'll keep. Search for an island, drop Mausoleum Wanderer, and pass the turn. Opponent drops that guy, sure. And then on our turn, we'll drop Tallowisp and swing in for 2. Opponent drops that thing. The devotion's getting up there. And we could load up our hand. I think that's what we'll do. We'll drop Tallowisp, getting Unstable Mutation. And we could put it down now, but I think we'll just get Mausoleum Wanderer out. Searching for Spirit Mantle and double searching for Hyena Umbra. And then swing for 3 in the air. Let's see how much mana they can make this turn. Elvish Visionary untaps a forest to drop Harmonize. Do we counter it? I think it's a good deal to counter. I mean, one of our guys to get rid of 3 cards. I think that's worth it. Now, time to dump our hand. Put Spirit Mantle on one of the ground guys and Unstable Mutation on the guy in the air. We'll swing for 6. Opponent's at 9, just to make sure he can't get too much mana next turn, we'll path this guy so he can't untap that. And then we'll pass the turn. Drops this guy, so his devotion's at 5. It's pretty good. Gets 5 mana. The Rag Tusk. Okay. Opponent goes back to 14. So to counteract his life gain, we'll drop Selfless Spirit, search for our last 2 auras, drop 1 on Tallowisp with protection from creatures, and then swing for 7. Let's see what our opponent can do with all that mana. Opponent plays this. Glad it's not another Thrag Tusk. But now he has Devotion 9. Oh, that is not good. Which will he get rid of? Probably this one? Yep. And Scavenging Ooze. There's only 1 creature in the graveyard. Man, this is a tough spot. Opponent swings for 5, no blocks. Trick Bind, could use that last turn with this guy. What to do? I think we definitely got to drop this guy. And no more auras to fetch. That's 7 in the air. Wait, I think that's it. 7 in the air, and then this on Selfless Spirit. And that should be 8. Did we actually win it? Oh, we actually got it. Wow, I didn't think we were going to win that one. Dang, wow. All right, cool. So I guess we're playing another one. Opening hand looks good. We'll keep. Please be a tier 1 deck. Like, I want to keep testing this deck out, but at the same time, I haven't posted a video in almost a week. And I've been working like every day. Ooh, this looks familiar. Except there's green. So most people would take the 4. But Reverse Psychology, he wants me to take the 4. Maybe it's like Jund, Burn, Reanimate. So we'll let it stay and we'll path it. Reverse Psychology. Plains and then pass the turn. So here comes path. Yep, and there you go. He had the claim to fame in hand probably. Wonder if he saw the Rakdos video. That'd be kind of cool. Bump of the night. Yeah, I was really surprised how well that Rakdos video did. I mean, it got like 1,000 likes. I mean, that's pretty crazy. And I noticed I was like looking at the Vexing Devil price online, and it like spiked. Like it was $1 when I bought it to play it, and then a couple days later it was like $3. It was crazy. Lightning Bolt came down, and I just did not expect that many people to see the video. I mean, it's really cool. I mean, for years I brewed decks, and like no one ever saw them, and so now it's kind of cool. I get to share it with everyone, and yeah, it's just pretty sweet. So dropping Rattlechains and then fetch. Let's see, drop Cavern, swing in for 2. Opponent goes to 12 and then pass. Atarka's Command. Do we Spell Quell that? You know, I think it's fine. Taking 3 is not that bad. If we're like Searing Blaze, then like for sure. Eidolon, that's a for sure card. We'll get rid of that. And then we pull Geist. Pretty good. We'll swing in for 4. Opponent goes to 8, and I think I'm going to put Hallowed Fountain on tap, which is a bit risky, but that way we can play both this and this if we need to, or even this. And they concede. Alright, well, I think we would have won it, but they must not have had anything in hand. But yeah, I was pretty sure we were going to win that one. So going into game 2, we're going to get rid of 1 Disrupting Shoal, 1 Shining Shoal, 1 Unstable Mutation, 1 Hyena Umbra, 2 Drogskol Captains, putting in 4 Leyline of Sanctities, 1 Spirit Link, and 1 Dispel. With that, let's go to the next game. Oh, 2 Leylines, Geist, and Steal the Godhead, and Selfless Spirit. Oh man, that's rough for our opponent. Opponent drops Monastery, we take 1, and we got another one of those. Holy crap. Alright, we'll drop that, pass the turn, and drops Eidolon already. Cool. You know, it would be really sweet if we got Tallowisp to fetch for Spirit Link, put the Spirit Link on Eidolon. I remember doing that a year ago, like a GP, and like, it was so much value. Because Spirit Link on Eidolon, whenever it hits our opponent or hits us, we gain life from both of those situations. So that's a ton of life gain. Another land, and I guess we'll just risk it and drop Tallowisp. Take 2 from Eidolon and pass the turn. Opponent swings with both, we'll block here. Atarka's Command. Yep. That's fine. We are getting pretty low on life. Alright, Flooded Strand. Can we survive all this? We'll drop Geist and pass the turn, but we'll be at 6. He might actually get us. I mean, if he has a bunch of Atarkas, and if he boarded out like Bump in the Night and stuff, I mean, he might get us. I mean, I don't know how, because we have like the perfect hand. Oh man. Is that Atarkas again? Oh my gosh. That's 6. You gotta be kidding me. Well, we lose either way because even if we block, yeah, no matter how we block, we lose. Oh my gosh. I don't understand. Like, didn't we have the perfect hand? Like, we looked at that hand and it was like, how? How? I mean, Atarka's Command is really good. In that second video we did of Rakdos Burn, the Atarka's Commands work out pretty well. Well, no change to sideboard. We'll go to game 3. But it's pretty scary how that hand wasn't good enough. Alright, this hand looks pretty good. 1 Leyline, bunch of other stuff, so I think we're good. And we don't have to fetch or put anything into play untapped. So Leyline, drop Mausoleum Wanderer, and pass the turn. Opponent drops Monastery, swings for 1, no blocks, and there's Geist. So on our turn, we'll drop in Selfless Spirit, swing in for 2, and pass the turn. So the downside of being strong in 3 colors is that your life total gets down really quickly, which is why main deck I only did red-black for Rakdos, just so we didn't have to worry about that 3rd color, and we can just get like 1 Blood Crypt and the rest mountains. Opponent attempts to Lightning Bolt Selfless Spirit, so we'll sack it, swings in for 2, and then drops Vexing Devil. Oh man, you were my friend in the last video. Why are you being so mean to me? If we had the extra mana, then we'd path, but I guess we let it stay, and if we don't get a land, we'll just path it. Yep, no land, so we'll swing in for 1, and then pass the turn. Swing in for 5. Oh shit, I forgot to bolt the guy. Oh my gosh, I'm an idiot. Holy shit. Well, if he drops Eidolon... Oh, look, see, I did that on purpose. I sensed the Eidolon coming, and I realized that Vexing Devil was not the right thing to path. It's not because it's like 2 going on 3 in the morning and I've been doing Magic for like almost a week straight non-stop. And I'm getting kind of concerned about that Vexing Devil though. Shoot, we should have just taken the 4 damage. Man, oh man, oh man. Should we drop Geist? Should we drop Rattlechains, Spell Queller? Ah, shoot. Why did I have to misplay? 4 cards in hand also. Let's just go for it. I mean, if we lose, we lose. Drop Geist. I didn't do that on purpose though. I didn't mean to miss the path, but I mean, it kind of worked out in our favor because like Eidolon's also hard for us to deal with. I mean, I should just, man, if I had known I wasn't gonna path it, I would have just taken the 4 instead of leaving it there because like now he's gonna attack. Oh, come on. Oh, jeez. No blocks. See if he has Lightning Bolt. He probably does. I mean, why else would he want to get rid of Leyline? Come on, Searing Blaze. I can counter it, please, please, please. Yes, 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 yes. Oh my gosh. I don't think he realized what we can do. We can sack it, which means we're going down to 1. Oh no, but I can only deal 6 to him. Oh no. No, I was hoping for an aura. Just 2 more damage. Oh my gosh, how do we get out of this? We don't. But how do we get out of this? We can't. Well then, the question now becomes, did we lose because I misplayed? And I think the answer is yes, because I shouldn't have let this guy stay. I was just trying to think outside the box because like our opponent always let us sacrifice it and then we just bring it back. So I was trying to be clever and like make it so he wouldn't sack it so he couldn't get it back because it was already there, but then like that just kind of backfired and like, yeah, I know, it was like 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. I mean the only real way out of this would be dropping Selfless Spirit and just like double blocking and just hope he doesn't have Lightning Bolt, which he most certainly does, probably with 2 cards in hand. And about to get a 3rd one. Oh man. And sacking this guy won't do anything because it still has a valid target. Oh dang. Alright, well we lost that one. Part of that was my fault. I mean, most of that was my fault. Okay, all of it was my fault, but like whatever. But at the same time, it's kind of satisfying, You know, like everything comes full circle. Like our last deck was Rakdos Burn with Stomping Ground for sideboard, so it was technically Jund, and the deck we lose to now in the end is Jund, or like Rakdos Jund. So I guess it's a fitting end, even though I really screwed it up. But to be honest, I'm pretty exhausted. I think I've done something like including the warm-up matches for this deck, I think almost 30 matches just today. And I also tested this deck yesterday. So it's really hard to think straight. I mean, the guy's deck was good, so, you know, it's one of those decks where if you make a mistake, it's really unforgiving. Like, if we were up against a different deck and we made a mistake, it's like we could probably still win it. But when it's burned, it's a good deck, pretty unforgiving. So, but you know, if we're gonna lose, might as well lose to a cool deck, so yeah. So in conclusion, the deck's pretty solid. It's definitely competitive. I mean, it's not the most competitive deck you could possibly buy. I mean, I wouldn't really compare it to like tier 1 affinity, but it's different, and there aren't too many tribal decks that are viable out there. I mean, if you don't want to play elves or merfolk in modern, I think blue-white spirits is the way to go. As far as tweaking the deck, I think the deck played out pretty well, but you could add a second colonnade to the deck, and occasionally we'll get to late game where we don't have anything and they don't have anything, and being able to play colonnades pretty good, especially if they board wipe us. So I think a second one wouldn't hurt, maybe even a third one. A third one wouldn't really hurt either, because turn 1 we're not really doing too much. I mean, drop Mausoleum Wanderer a lot, but other than that, I think Colonnade turn 1's pretty good. Now, Unstable Mutation, which probably a lot of people looked at the card and thought this isn't very good, it actually worked really well in our deck, and in some matches really did make a difference. So I definitely think it's earned its place in the deck, and I wouldn't cut it. As for the Shoals, we did sideboard them out a lot, but they're pretty cool. They worked really well with Tallowisp, and it's just really sweet to have a card that you don't need to pay mana for, even if you have to discard a card to do it, or exile a card. But yeah, overall I was really satisfied with main deck. And as for sideboard, definitely a few changes we can make here. Kataki War's Wage, it is a spirit, and I'm happy about that, but like 2 felt like overkill a lot. Against Affinity, it's good, but against anything else like Tron, it just isn't really worth playing. And I'd rather just have Stony Silence in most of those cases. Even against Affinity, this guy's okay, but then they're just gonna like sacrifice stuff and leave the good stuff behind, so it's cool, but not great. Stony Silence is superior. Leylines, they worked out really well. In the deck version that I had a year ago, I didn't play any Leylines, and that was a mistake, because Inquisitions and Thoughtseize just wrecked this deck pretty hard, because it's really a combo deck. It's like an aggro combo deck, like with Geist and Steal the Godhead, so if they get rid of one of those cards from hand, it really does kill the deck, especially with Geist, where it has hexproof, and the only way to really get rid of it is to counter it, which is difficult because we have Cavern of Souls, or to discard it with Inquisition or Thoughtseize. But other than these cards here, for artifacts, I feel like the sideboard is right where it needs to be. We never did get to see the trick with Trick Bind. That trick being if you attack with Geist, and when the token gets exiled, you can Trick Bind the trigger to exile it and keep the token permanently. And all these cards here seem really solid. I wouldn't really change anything here, except just maybe these artifact cards here. Get more of this, less of this. Could cut a Leyline here, could cut a Rest in Peace, maybe. I wouldn't, but you could. And maybe Dispel, keep it or leave it. But overall, I like the deck. It's definitely viable, it's competitive. And my favorite part about this deck is that there's so many weird interactions. It's kind of like a sampling of like all the weird decks out there. You have Tallowisp, which can like fetch you an Aura, and most decks don't even play Aura, so it kind of feels like Bogles in that regard. But it has Celestial Colonnade, so it kind of feels like Azorius Control in that regard. But then it's like Cavern of Souls, which is like Merfolk, and then Rattlechains with Flash is kind of like, I don't know, maybe like Vendilion Click kind of feel. And then, I don't know, I guess like a Disrupting Shoal and Shining Shoal is kind of like Force of Will, maybe, like a crappy version of it. But what I'm trying to say is that like you get this sampling that you don't really see in a lot of decks, and it keeps the deck fresh. And plus combo here, like combo's like really cool. But that's about all for the deck. And just before signing off, I just want to apologize for getting this video out slower than I wanted to. As soon as I saw the last 2 videos were doing really, really well, I went straight to making modern videos, but just like went in so many different directions looking at all these different decks. And as you can see here, like these are all the decks I've made in the past few days. And there's just so many of them. I just went in so many different directions, and I just didn't know which one to use. And a couple of the decks almost made the cut before. Spirits, as you can see here, like this is just back on Monday, and today is Tuesday, or now it's Wednesday, it just turned Wednesday. So there's just so many decks, and the problem is you make a deck and you look at it and you're like, wow, like this is really good. And it's just so hard to tell if a deck's good or not without playing it. And so a lot of these decks I have to make and play test it just to see if it's viable. And most of the time it's not, which is why the videos you see do really well in the matches usually. Because if I make a deck and it goes like 1 in 5 in matches, then you never see the deck. So if I make a video on a deck, it's usually because it does really well, and I think people might be interested in building the deck, but I don't want to make a deck that's bad, have it go like 1-5, and people try to build the deck themselves only to realize that the deck's just not viable. So just a ton of delays. And in the last video I did talk about making an artifact prison deck, and I went in so many different directions with that, and I don't even know what I was thinking. Like I just really wanted to make an Isochron Scepter prison deck, and like it almost worked out where it had like 4 ensnaring bridges, like 3 chalices, actually bumped to 4 in the final version, and I really thought that it could be viable. And after doing like 10-15 matches with it, it just wasn't really getting there. And the main problem was that the finisher, which is mainly Isochron Scepter, needed to have an instant at the right time. And so when it worked, it really worked, where you had like Isochron Scepter, and then maybe you had had like Lightning Helix in hand, that worked really well, or a Boros Charm, which means that every turn you can pay 2 and recast that card, which is great. It's a really great card. And the fact that we have Welding Jars to protect our other artifacts made it work out pretty nicely where it wouldn't really get destroyed. But there's just so many times where like you had an instant but not the scepter, or you had the scepter but not the instance, and it just couldn't get there consistently. So that took some time up. And then I went and got distracted by this deck here, where I really tried to make Aronis' Last Stand deck, and it almost worked. Now the deck you see here isn't the version I got to. I made a lot of changes to the deck since making this version, but the idea is to drop Aronis' Last Stand for 2, followed by Populate for like 1, or you can copy it with this here for 2, or essentially copy it. And when it worked, it really worked. Nothing else I've seen in Modern where you get like an army of 5/4s or 4/4s by turn 2 or 3, and it doesn't really matter that the land's on tap because it's so aggressive, where you get so much mana fixing that by turn 3 you're already dumping your hand. So if your land's on tap the following turn, it doesn't really matter, and your creature's on tap to make mana. So it almost worked, but the problem was the mana curve. Turn 1, you'd have like Noble Hierarch, but you'd also have Inquisition, and you don't really know which one to fire off until you fire off Noble because you want to get more mana, but then they play their good stuff like turn 1 or turn 2 on their turn, and you just miss the opportunity to Inquisition it, and it was really the mana curve that killed the deck. So then I made a new version where it like had Tarmogoyf in it, and then Tasigur, and then it just started to like become like a typical Abzan deck where the whole Aronis' Last Stand thing just didn't really feel that important in the deck, and it kind of just fell apart and just became a generic tier whatever deck. But it was cool, and we also had Voice of Resurgence, so like when it died, you can copy that token. It was really sweet, but definitely not worth showing. I mean, the win-loss record was just not good enough. It was pretty bad. Like, it lost a lot more than it won. And there's still so many more decks I want to make, and based on your feedback from the last videos, people really like Modern, like nothing else this channel's ever seen. I mean, the subscriber spike was massive, and thanks to everyone who subscribed. I mean, it was crazy, because like not that long ago we hit 1,000 subs, and I thought that was like the craziest thing ever. I'm like, oh my gosh, like 1,000 subs. And then like now we're at almost 5,000 subs. Like that's insane. So I take it that a lot of people like Modern, and I really like Modern, so it works out. So as long as the subscribers want more Modern, I will make more Modern. But for those of you who subscribe for Standard, I haven't forgotten about Standard. We are overdue for a Standard video. We should just, make it just to say we made a Standard video, because I want everyone to feel like they're included in the channel and that what they want to see is being produced. So we're definitely not done with Standard, and we're definitely not done with Draft either, because there were a lot of subscribers who came for Draft. But Hour of Devastation just didn't really do well. Like the first few videos that I made for Hour of Devastation just kind of died really quickly, where the one video got less than 1,000 views, which is still a lot of views, but compared to like what the Solemnity video got or the Rakdos Burn got, it's not that many views. And it was about half as many as Amonkhet. So I will return to Draft, but I think around the time of Ixalan will be the time we really ramp up Draft again. Like there'll be a lot of Draft stuff then, but between now and then, maybe 1 or 2 more Draft videos. But yeah, just let me know what you want to see. I take it from the subscribers that we want more Modern more than anything, but let me know either way. And that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a great day.